ask you, have you ever said to yourself, "What can I do? I'm just one person." When you look at all the events that are going on in our world today, you may be like most people and feel very overwhelmed. You might even feel helpless and say, "What can I do? The world has gone crazy." And yes, I agree, it has gone crazy. There are a lot of things happening that are insane, absolutely insane. They make no sense, and you really have to shake your head and say, "Where are these people getting these ideas? And what is their agenda?" But more importantly, you're probably like most people and have a great concern for our nation in Canada and all that's happening, especially now with a lot of the restrictions and crackdowns on even our children, and putting restrictions in terms of when they can play sports and when they can't, and all of these things. Well, I'm here to share with you today something that you can do that can make a difference. Now, I'm not guaranteeing that it's going to make a change, but it's something that you can put into action as a citizen of Canada. Now, I first heard about this or learned about this because I was very stirred in my spirit, and I was very concerned when I heard our Prime Minister, JT, going around the nation speaking very arrogantly and making statements that I felt in my spirit were very dangerous, and they were inciting hatred. And then I watched an interview by Laura Lynn Thompson interviewing a lawyer from Crossan Law. Her name is Carol Crossan, and I'll put her link up here in a bit. And she actually said, yes, this actually is a violation of a criminal code, what he is doing. If anybody else was doing that, they would immediately either get fired or get charged. So as a citizen, you actually can do something if you're willing to step forward. It won't cost you anything, might cost you a couple of hours, but monetarily it didn't cost me anything to do it. So I went and did this week at my local provincial courthouse. And I want to encourage you to do the same if you are concerned about our future and if you want this tyranny to stop that's happening. And if you're concerned at the rhetoric that's going on, trying to bring segregation and ostracization between groups in our society. What am I talking about? Well, it's this. This is Carol Crossan's site, and she is a lawyer in Alberta, but this is a site of a charity that she runs that she's called freedomsadvocate.ca, Rights and Freedoms Advocate. And if you go on here, you will see who we are. Let's just check on there so you know who she is. This is the vision they have. Rights and Freedoms Advocate is a charity devoted to defending the rights and freedoms of all Canadians, including the rights to freedom of religion and freedom of expression, by representing individuals and groups in defending them against government and other authorities who are threatening those rights. Does that sound like what's happening today? When you go on this site, you'll notice on the sidebar, it says vaccine mandates, public incitement of hatred. Click on there, and this is what will come up. Are you concerned about public authorities who are publicly shaming those who have not decided or who have decided not to be vaccinated? Here is something every Canadian can do. The Criminal Code of Canada makes it an offense. I'm going to put this up in larger print here. The Criminal Code of Canada makes it an offense. Let me just make this a little bit larger. To do the following: public incitement of hatred. Section 3191. Everyone who, by communicating statements in any public place, incites hatred against any identifiable group where such incitement is likely to lead to a breach of the peace is guilty of an indictable offense and is liable to imprisonment for a term not exceeding 2 years or an offense punishable on summary conviction. When officials communicate publicly that those who choose not to vaccinate should be subject to hateful treatment, they could be charged under this offense. Not every communication against non-vaccinated Canadians rise to this level, but only if it incites hatred, which is likely to lead to a breach of the peace. So an individual in Canada can go to their local provincial courthouse to lay what's called a private information or prosecution. It's an unusual term, but that's what it's called, a private information or prosecution. A private information may not be entertained if the individual who committed the offense does not live in the province where you attempt to apply it, or the offense itself did not occur there. If the information is accepted in that province, the usual process is to either phone or go to the court to ask to make an appointment with the justice of the peace to swear to an information. If it is not accepted in that province by JP, the RCMP will entertain the complaint on the same charge. If you are attending the courthouse, bring the information needed to share the facts and how they believe someone has committed this offense. So, on this issue, one should include on the form the particular incident in which you allege the offense occurred. If it is in a video, you can bring along the video clip as well as writing out the language the alleged offender used. You may also include how statements made in your opinion resulted in hatred toward those who have not been vaccinated, the identifiable group. If you have evidence of this, share it. It may be helpful to outline how you believe the hatred is likely to lead to a breach of the peace or a disturbance or victimization. Also include how this makes you afraid and worried about the ostracization. The same tolerance these officials like to promote is in stark contrast to the hatred they're inciting. So, does that sound like something you've heard recently? Well, it is definitely something that I've heard recently. Maybe you're not familiar with it. Let me just pull up a document because I transcribed some of the statements that were made by, in particular, and I haven't watched all of them, but two places where our prime minister was campaigning, and he specifically, remember, identifiable group is one of the things he named an identifiable group. So, for sake of time, I'm going to pull up my document, and you're welcome to email me or message me if you want a copy of this document that shows this for the purpose of you going to the courthouse. And incidentally, I will say this, that I also did this for our premier who made similar statements. So you may find yourself in a similar situation in your particular province. All right. So here's our prime minister at a campaign for George Cahill in Calgary, August 19th, speaking. And he said this. He went on to talk about you deserve a government that's going to continue to get vaccinated. And you know what? If you don't want to get vaccinated, that's your choice. But don't think you can get on a plane or a train beside vaccinated people and put them at risk. So he identified a group, those who are not vaccinated. And he also said you're putting people at risk because you are. Now, that may not seem so out there and say, well, that's okay. That's not really incite hatred. Listen further. In Sudbury, August 31st, again, this is a YouTube clip. He was campaigning there. And there were some people he called them anti-vaxxers, but that may not be the case. They could have been just anti-mandatory passport, anti-lock, anti-people who are against the passports and maybe have been vaccinated themselves. He just labeled them. And this is the seriousness of it. He made an identifiable group a target. And so I want you to catch this because it is a violation of the criminal code. So this is where he went on to say, so the folks out there, so he's talking about people who are chanting behind him while he was speaking. So the folks out there tonight shouting, the anti-vaxxers, he made an identifiable group. They're wrong. They're wrong about how we get through this pandemic. And more than just being wrong, because everyone's entitled to their opinions, they're putting at risk. So again, he's creating a divide. They're putting at risk their own kids. They're putting at risk our kids as well. And that's why we've been unequivocal. If you want to get on a plane or a train in the coming months, you're going to have to be fully vaccinated. What is he doing? Causing segregation, ostracization. So families with their kids don't have to worry that someone is going to put them in danger in the seat next to them or across the aisle. What is he doing? He's creating a hatred. He's inciting hatred towards those who've made a medical choice for various reasons. And he's creating a segregation. People can go into non-essential businesses and feel safe because we're going to keep those people who've not vaccinated out of those areas, and that they're not going to get caught or catch COVID from someone next to them. He is making them out. He is making people who have not been vaccinated, who chose not to get vaccinated, and it's a medical choice that they have a right to make. He is creating a divide and inciting hatred. Let's continue on. Now, I'm just going to read some of the bold for sake of time. You can definitely read this. We're going to pay for the development of those privileges that you can get once you are vaccinated. Again, special privileges if you take the vaccination. He's creating a segregation. And those people, those anti-vaxxers he named, are putting us all at risk. What is he doing? He is creating a divide. He is creating a us versus them society. He's not calling them Canadians who are responsible. He is putting a specific label that they're not safe, and they're putting your kids at risk, that they are a risk to society in every way. So he's thinking about making a choice. What are the choice I have to keep my kids safe? I'd say, yeah, you do have a choice, but so do we. So does everybody else. Now let's continue on here. This part really concerned me. He said, that's the choice. And I am not going to back down no matter how many of them show up to try and shut us down for what I know to be true. What science tells us. Mr. JT, what science are you listening to? Because you are not looking at all the science, at the legitimate truth-telling science. What Canadians have told me. This Canadian didn't tell you that, which is people are willing to do their part to get through the pandemic. And that's what we'll do together. So shame on you, Aaron O'Toole. So he's now outing out the PC leader. But listen here. He says, you need to condemn those people. Who are those people? That identifiable group called anti-vaxxers. You need to correct them. You need to condemn them. You need to correct them. And you need to use your voice to shut them down, basically. Okay. Which part of those statements that I read did not line up or did not fall into the category of the criminal code violation? Everyone who, by communicating statements in any public place, incites hatred against any identifiable group. Did he identify a group? Absolutely. Did he communicate these statements in a public place? He sure did. Where such incitement is likely to lead to a breach of the peace. Do you think those statements, and maybe you can even testify that you are already feeling the effects of this kind of message that's out there, that you're feeling alienated, you're feeling ostracized, you're feeling put out, you're feeling discriminated against, you're feeling hated towards? Let me know if this is true for you, because I know I've certainly felt that, and I've had close friends and family also feel this. Is likely to lead to a breach of the peace. I would say absolutely. Is guilty of an indictable offense and is liable to imprisonment for a term not exceeding 2 years or an offense punishable. So which part of this? All of it. He has committed a crime that's punishable. So what does that got to do with you? Listen, Wednesday, I went down with some friends to my provincial court here in Alberta, and I filed what was called a private information, which is what Carol Crossan, go to freedomsadvocate.ca. This is something an individual can do. It's not something that's done a lot, but it is something that is legal, and it's a process that they have to approve or follow through on. And if they don't, then that's a whole other discussion. I'm just going to put up the advocates.com, make sure I got the right. Okay, no S on there. So it's freedomadvocate.com. And I'm going to put this at the bottom here right now. Okay, freedom advocate, freedoms with an S on the end, advocate. So let's show you this form. I'm going to show you this form that I filled out. And really, it won't take you long. It took me a little bit longer because I didn't have it written down what I was going to say. So I just kind of did it. But these are the things that you need to know. So what happened was, it's called a public information. And this is the form in Alberta, what it looks like. It may look differently in it also could be called a private prosecution It might look different in your province, but this is the form I had in my province. And basically, you have to put in, this is the information of, you put your name, you put your address, herein call the informant. You are called the informant. You're informing the judge of somebody who violated criminal code. Name in full, Justin Trudeau, born on, by the way, this is public information. He was born in 1971, December 25th, and the address for his is 24 Sussex Drive, Ottawa. And then in here, you put state the offense. He violated, according to the criminal code 319 with one, and you can go on the freedomsadvocate.ca to see the exact criminal code, but it's 319, section 1. Section 319.1, it says he violated the criminal code, section 319.1, which states, and then what I did is I made a public statement on 2 occasions, August 19th and August 31st, 2021, towards that was inciting hatred towards an identifiable group that is likely to lead to a breach of the peace according to this criminal code. His statements not only cause segregation and hatred within society, but has given permission to shame, condemn, and correct and ostracize this group based on their medical choice. I personally have experienced such treatment and fear for my life and the welfare of my family. So, sworn before me here, you put on the date and where you did. So, I was in Alberta, in the town in Alberta, and then you bring it to the clerk, and the clerk then gets you to swear and then sign here. And then what happens is they give you a court date. This might be different. Maybe it's going to be different in your province, but for me, it's like, okay, I went in on Wednesday. They said, come back next Thursday to see the judge. And so now I wait to see the judge to see how the judge will rule whether or not this is something that they will lay charge against JT. I want to urge you, do this today. Do this as soon as possible before the election. Do this as soon as possible. Go to your local provincial court, ask for a private information or a prosecution information against someone who's violated a criminal code. Okay? It didn't cost me a penny to do it. And I just did it right there. It took about an hour, once we figured out what we're doing, what we're going to say. And I also filled out one against our premier. So this is something you can do as an individual. And then I would encourage you to bring with you, when you do go before the judge, the exact printout of the words that was said and how you believe this is inciting hatred and how you believe this is going to is potentially going to create or has already a breach of peace within society. Okay? So if you need to go as a group, go as a group, but do it. This is something you can go on record to do, as doing something as a citizen to say, no, I want to put a stop to this. This man needs to be held accountable for his words, because he is stepping on dangerous territory right now. Listen, there is a group, I should say, and I'm just going to pull it up here as well. A group of pilots, airline stewardess who have formed an organization who are standing up against the tyranny that's happening, against the mandatory vaccinations and so on. And they're bringing lawsuit against the government. Okay. And there was an article written on them, and there's a statement that was made. Let me just pull it up here. It's airline professionals. Some of these pilots, by the way, were veterans. They fought for the freedoms that are right now at stake in our nation, and they are standing up against the tyranny, against the vaccine passports. This pilot that was interviewed by Lee Harding said this: "It is a righteous battle, one that I firmly believe in, and that is indeed the hill to die on." He means that this is not about vaccinations. This is about freedom. This is about taking away the freedoms of Canadians to make a choice for religion, for speech, for movement, for the freedoms that were won because of people laying down their lives. He said, this is a hill that I'm willing to die on. And it reminded me of someone else who died on a hill that was worthy to do that. and that was Jesus Christ. He thought it very worthy that your life and your freedom, because Jesus died for your freedom, he died to set you free from the corruption of the world and everything else. And so today, I want you to take seriously this freedom that you've been given as a gift by the blood of many who've laid down their lives, and ask yourself, is this a hill that you're willing to die on, that you're willing to stand up for your convictions and truth, for you, for your children, your grandchildren, for the freedom that is yours to walk in, and that is a gift that was given to you because of others who've won before you, who thought it was worthy enough for your freedom. So I want to encourage you, go to your provincial courthouse, ask for private information, and lay charge against our prime minister and anybody else in your province that is inciting the same kind of words, and have the words printed out so that when you go back, you'll have them in writing there and you're ready to state your case. All right. Hope this has been helpful. Let me know your thoughts, your comments, or if you need any information. And I look forward to standing together for truth, justice, and for seeing our nation become the nation that it was born to be, the nation that is healing for the nations, and one that we're proud to be standing together as Canada, the true north, strong and free.